hello. We're late. Well, I'm late. I'm always late. I intend to be late for my funeral. Very late. Like, you know, I need at least another 100 years on this planet. There's so much to do. Well, these are just the plants. And so today we're talking about something I hope you'll enjoy. Not too intense, but as everything is, as we talk about, everything always ends up being just that little bit extra. Just, you know, even if it's just a fun thing, like, or joyous, beautiful things like plant care. Oh, I do need to show you. Look at the lavenders and things like that. So, not just plant care, but what does it really mean to care for living beings that have been here way before us? It's very beautiful. Anyway, good morning. That's me. How you doing? So join us. I really, really, really hope you do. Stay with us. It's not going to be long. I'm going to try and keep this an hour. You know, I have a problem with talking. I can't stop talking. So I don't necessarily have a problem with it. It's just that I talk too much. Yes, there is such a thing. You know, there's such a thing as drinking too much water. And, oh, damn. I was hoping to catch my husband playing his guitar, but he saw that I had started recording, so he just sat down. He's just so not a... So he just strums his guitar every now and then. I was hoping to catch it, but he heard me recording and he stopped playing. Anyway, I have to show you something, but I can't always see where these... So that's why you end up looking up my nose, and I'm really sorry about that. Saturday, September 2nd, the second day of calendrical spring in the southern hemisphere. And today, oh, I should have shown you, actually, what the day looked like outside, but you did get a bit of a glimpse. Absolutely stunning. Today actually feels like spring, but then it felt like spring in winter. And so, okay, this is hello, hello, hello. And now, do come, please. Do join us. All right, so this is what's happening right now. Oops, apologies for that break in transmission. So, Duane, darling, can I see the cover again?
Sure.
And I wish I had caught you playing guitar. That was so beautiful, but I knew that as soon as you heard me,
I was just...
you know, you were sitting here playing your guitar, yes. And it was like...
Well, this lab wasn't about that.
No, I know. We are talking about something really... really fun for us, and something that started for me in Fiji. This is my love of this particular art genre started in Fiji. We've got a few things to show you. We'll share some history, but this book is really also very important. It's called Finding Our Heart, and it's illustrated by a friend of mine, but actually that's not his first importance. Black Douglas is an incredible and very important artist in Australia and in the world, really, and he's this year's Archibald winner, but Black Douglas signed that, I think. I'm sure he signed this one. I can't remember the... Yes, that's when we went to buy one of his paintings, and I had already bought this, so he then signed it for me. But this is about the Uluru Statement, and also because now we have the voice referendum vote coming up in October, and that's really scary. But this is a book for children, for the children who will teach us how to find our collective heart. And if you don't know, if you're not from or within Australia and you don't know what's happening in Australia, First Nations country, the First Nations people of Australia don't actually have the rights. Like, we're from Fiji. In Fiji, the First Nations people may not have all the prosperity or all the fairness, but they do have the rights. And it was given in some very strange tyrannical ways, and I'm sorry for the people of Fiji, because it did, while trying to create equality, unfortunately that created more inequity. Now, so this shows all... Actually, we need to talk about this later, because we need to talk a little bit more about my love for the First Nations people of this country, but they do not have their rights. Like the people of Fiji, no one has any rights. So in this misguided way, the previous government thought they would bring equality about, unfortunately created more inequity.
Rights on their own land.
Yeah, and it's right, it's terrible. But the indigenous people of this country that we as settlers call Australia, they do not have the rights. And I'm very happy that in Fiji, the First Nations people of Fiji have the rights, but it shouldn't be at the expense of everybody else who lives there. That's not what the First Nations people of this great country, people who've been around for 60,000 years. We're going to talk about that later, because today we're actually talking about dun, 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 our love of comics. And my love of comics started in Fiji, because Fiji had the best of everything. You don't understand. This country was just mwah, mwah, mwah. Once upon a time, the national airlines of Fiji, when it was Air Pacific, their slogan was Fiji the way the world should be, right? And really, it should be, but it was never. It was always actually colonized. From the moment the people of Fiji had those Americans came and wanted to colonize Fiji in the 1800s. I'll tell you the story later. But from that moment on, the people of Fiji, the first people of Fiji didn't have their country. So that's terrible. And then, of course, the Indians were lied to about why they were needed to go there. And they were told that they were welcomed by the indigenous people who didn't want to work their lands. And of course, why should they? Why should the indigenous people work their land for anybody else? It's their land to work for themselves. Yeah. And if other people want to, then they can work the land for themselves. The First Nations people of Fiji should not have to work their lands for other people. Right?
That's right.
And my husband is quarter indigenous. He doesn't say that. He's quarter indigenous, quarter Chinese, and half Indo-Fijian. Anyway, that's how we feel. So we'll talk about also how we feel about First Nations rights, etc. Even though I personally, not personally, but as a collective Indo-Fijian, we are one of the most displaced racial groupings in the world, because Indian people don't think we're Indian. They look down on us, and we look at them and go, as if. I love being Indian, but thanks, I also really, really love being from Fiji. So it's like, I love being of Indian ancestry, but I love being from Fiji. Love, you have no idea. Anyway, so this is what we're saying. So my love of comics. So my darling, yes. please do go ahead and pull some out, because Duane is actually, Duane studied all of this. So he's an animator and an illustrator, and he will be mortified having me describe him like this, but he's a graphic novel illustrator. See, he's laughing, because, okay, he thinks unless he actually has produced something, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
Unless he's actually produced something, he can't call himself that. Like, even though he plays the guitar, by the way, this guitar I bought in Suva in 2018 from Golden Dragon, owned by Ken Jansen, who is a good friend and my former band leader back when I was the female lead for Ken Jansen and the Heart. So there's a little bit of history there, which I won't talk about here, because I will talk about my music and my fashion and my media.
This is really good comic.
Oh, yes.
That's why we have two.
We have two, because one is mine. This is mine.
Yeah.
And Kingdom Come is major DC lore. Okay, it's major. And also reasons we do need to talk about this, because we know we've got friends in cool places. All right. So look at this. Salanialo, Path of the Shades by Clarence Das, Fiji's first published graphic novel artist. It is fantastic. What a big deal.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to applaud, and I don't know how to do that, but everyone please applaud. It's huge. So Clarence is out and about today with his lovely wife Courtney, who is an artist in her own right. But we will be talking with Clarence soon. This is fantastic. So I'm just going to bring this down so that we can actually, sorry, there it is. So go through it. But it's a big deal. It's an absolutely big deal. Then we've got this. So I'll just show you a little bit of our artwork. So this is a fine woodblock print from David Bull, and the design and concept by Jed Henry. And David Bull and Jed Henry, for those of you who do know, I don't have to explain who they are, but for those of you who don't, these are iconic names in the how in this illustration, graphic novel, modern contemporary art arena, art industry. Now this print was a gift from Duane's sister, who is also very much into all of this and knows how much Duane loves everything about this, loves the fact that it's the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And and also just mixed in with Japanese, mythology and history and all that. So it's absolutely beautiful. What a beautiful print. What a beautiful, beautiful exclusive gift. And so that was amazing. And so we'll talk about the art stuff later. Let's talk about the comics now. Let's talk about, first of all, I'm going to place, that's our books. Some of these books I have had for decades. Some of these books I have had since I was a child. I've had to get rid of most of my books because of that. Because you can't keep carrying your books all over the world, and I've lived all around the world. But anyway, we'll talk about all that another time. For now, we're going to be talking about our love of comics and how much of it, for me, comes from Fiji. Because we used to have the best comic book stores in the world, and also the Fiji Times used to have the best comic styling in comic strips. Right. And that's where some of my favorite ones have come from. And of course, one of my most favorite is the Phantom, the ghost who walked. The ghost who walks. Well, he's now the ghost who runs because the world is really full of people who need him. So, and of course, Wonder Woman. But Wonder Woman was my hero from when I was 8. And I'll talk about that first. Let me finish about Phantom. I will also post here later, or its links are in the bio, and also go to Duane's account and the Stylanders account, and you will see our review of the Phantom movie and Duane's illustration of the Phantom, because we're both such Phantom fans, and also Wonder Woman fans. But my love of Phantom actually came from Fiji because of the Fiji Times. And then of course we used to have this amazing comic book shop in Suva, in Turak, at the junction of, I can't remember those roads, Waimanu Road and Turak Road. It's still there. You and I visited it last year when we were living in Fiji. But my gosh, it's such a sad thing. It's almost like, no, you shouldn't revisit where your memories are, your happy times, because they don't exist. The old guy's still there. The comics are sort of still there. There's some porn in there too, and some terrible smells and stuff. But anyway, I'm just going to move a little to bring the tripod closer so I can put that there. And so we'll talk about Wonder Woman, my love of Wonder Woman, and why that came about in DC, etc. So Phantom, though, oh my goodness, I can't believe how much I know about Phantom. What a fantastic character. Phantom is actually the world's first superhero. He was the world's first superhero, and that was the first time they started doing this. Pull this back to my darling. They started, not having eyes. They just had the mask. And Phantom always had the most incredible women. Most incredible women and characters, and it was just great. So this was created by Lee Falk, 1930s? Yeah, somewhere around that. And if you listen to our review of the Phantom movie, you'll hear a lot more of what I know about the Phantom and how much you and I loved the Phantom movie, and how fantastic Catherine Zeta-Jones was, and Kirsty Swanson.
But we need to do a review on the comic books.
Yes, we do.
Your knowledge of
my knowledge of the comics is Phantom lore is quite something. Yes, I know. I do know a lot about Phantom.
So that would be a good one.
So, my darling, can you just hold that while I hold the camera and just go through all the comic books that we have in our collection? Now, I used to have a lot of comic books, but unfortunately, maturity and the fact, I hate the maturity thing, being an adult. So being an adult, people think you shouldn't love comic books. And I say, and you say, but you also know that comic books are an art. They're not for children. They're not for children. However, what we did have for children in Fiji were these books, these comic books called the Amar Chitra Katha, which means, Katha means story, and Amar, I think, means life, and Chitra, I have no idea. But what these were incredible comic books of all Hinduism stories, Hindu mythology, Hindu theology. I'm just going to go get my tea, so my voice is going to go out of range a bit. And it was incredible, really, really incredible comics, and beautifully drawn. Everyone was so gorgeous. That's why, to me, it's like, gosh, these Indian gods and goddesses and people are so gorgeous. I must remain gorgeous like these Indian gods that I descend from. So So we used to have those best comics, and so those were for kids to learn about Hinduism, and it was fun. What a fun way. There was no fear. There was no scary stuff. It was all just, And Hindu gods and goddesses were shown to have faults, and they owned up to it and all those things. So it was quite fascinating. It was really amazing. So I loved all that for that. But really, comic books are not for children. They're not. It's just modern day hieroglyphics and art with words. So comic book people are incredible because they not only write, they have to draw the story. And the drawings are magnificent, and each panel is a work of art in itself. Now, I've seen you draw comics, sweetheart. Oh my God. The level of detail is incredible. Absolutely incredible. So yeah, that's so this is it. So I'm going to turn the camera on me. I think I've got my tea over there. I've got a notepad because if you are familiar with the way we conduct these things. Well, I tend to digress a lot, and I do tend to forget what I'm saying. So right now I'm talking about the Amar Chitrakatha comic books that used to be sold all over Suva, and it was great for everybody to get to see things. So it was fantastic. Now, how do I? Oh gosh, some of these things. The problem with live is that you can't really, change camera settings and stuff. And I like to be a little bit more control. But what I really love about live is that all of this is happening as is, nothing scripted, which is amusing, and nothing is scheduled. Now, if like this behind the scenes stuff, you get to see firsthand. I'm sorry about that. I hope this doesn't pop out. I don't really want to push everything too much because I'm worried I'm going to do something to the screen. Anyway, here we go. So that's it. That should do. That should do, I hope. Or can you see? So we'll point things up to you, and hi. So yes, so we're sitting here, and this is our fun because Saturday mornings are traditionally cartoon hour. That's when the comics used to be and all that. So that's why I really wanted to talk about this today. And it's cartoon time and comic book time, and I used to go to the comic book store in Turak on Saturday mornings, while Mum did shopping and stuff, and there were some fantastic shops in Mark Street and Waimanu Road and things like that. So I would just be in the comic book shop, and that's where Phantom comics and latest comics every week, new comics, Archie, Asterix and Obelix. And I have a really good story about the Asterix and Obelix influence on me. Here we go. I've actually got an Asterix and Cleopatra. This is my most favorite Asterix and Obelix adventure. And what made me want to go to Egypt? So
Cleopatra's brown.
And Cleopatra's brown in this. So I was always shocked to see why Cleopatra was depicted as being white. Anyway, so that was good. But comic books are for adults. Each one is artwork. I'm fascinated by what people do. And animators, those cartoons and everything you see. Well, before computerization, but even then, it's made it faster, the process faster. It's still intricate and detailed. I have seen Duane do animation stuff or draw comic type imagery, and it's incredible. So yeah, so before it was computerized, the cartoons were frames sped up. So each one was.
It still is. It still is.
Yeah.
You still have to.
Well, actually, he's the expert, so.
The medium now has made it easier. So before you draw it on paper, so say you do a 1 second of animation, is basically 24 frames.
Right.
So you have to draw 24 drawings, but animation techniques, you can cut it in half. So people use 12 frames per second animation. So that reduces the smoothness of the animation, but now you can do it on computers, and it's a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Before you did backgrounds on transparencies and hand-painted backgrounds, hand-drawn frames.
And you've learnt all this, haven't you?
Yeah.
When you went to study graphic design and
so we studied
animation.
The foundation of animation.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
How they used to do it before. But now we do it on computer, you got everything's digitalized, and you can duplicate frames, and you've got presets and plugins where you can AI actually fills in some of the framework. So
yeah,
it's really cool.
This is why Duane has assured me that AI is not a creative's enemy. If you are already creative, AI then becomes an aid. But we'll talk about that another time. I'm just going to shift a little bit of the angle so it's more here, because so that, you know, you can see my husband more, because you can hear us more. So, that's...
So yeah, but that's animation. That's not comic books.
But comic books are an absolute art to me. I have been fascinated by comic books since I was a child. I love them. And then when we went to India, we lived in India briefly, but we also visited India a lot. So when I was a child, I went about 9, 10. We were there visiting friends in what is now known again as Mumbai, what was then called Bombay. And and they're really rich friends, okay? They lived in a compound themselves. So each family member basically had their own house in the compound. And I know, the level of wealth segregation, but anyway, it was just fascinating. It was great. And because I used to have a British accent because I was brought up in England. So, you know, they found me fascinating and stuff. So I was just a very pampered child. Anyway, well, the oldest son of the house, he had his own wing and house, which had its own library wing, and his library, oh my God, the size of, you know, most people's houses. I don't know, was full of videos and comics.
Wow, so cool.
Oh my God. Digests, Archie digests, and Archies, and Betty and Veronica's, and you know, every single Jughead, every single variation, Sabrina, every single variation of the Archie verse, and then just DC galore. DC, no Marvel. I didn't really get into Marvel because this was all DC. So DC, and it was just like, oh my God. And I was just in heaven, and it was great.
Yeah.
So he just allowed me because he saw the respect, because I think, you know, because when you're ultra rich sometimes and you're spoilt, which I grew up privileged, materially very wealthy, so my father was rich, but I wasn't spoiled. I was pampered. So we did understand the value and significance of money, and money is to be respected at each level. But when you're ultra rich and you're brought up spoilt, then it doesn't really matter who handles something. But I don't know if he was like that, or did he understand that when he opened the cupboards and I just went, maybe he understood that I wasn't going to just touch the comics any old way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
So I was very respectful when look at this, show my darling. And I think I did take photographs, but we should have actually filmed that, but we weren't into this part of our, broadcast channel. So each comic book is in its own sleeve. It's protected. Some of these comic books are old, and I intend to have them forever, but they're protected. They're absolutely. We protect the one, this artwork, and Duane has made sure each one fits properly, because also he can't stand it.
We haven't even taken this one.
I know. This is a gift from
my sister,
from Kat, Duane's sister, and it's just like, it's so beautiful. We don't want to open it. We don't want to touch it. There's so many things. Like, I've given Duane so many incredible, books about the DC, mythology and other things like that, and comic stuff and all these things. And he hasn't opened them. I'm like, come on. I'm very much that. Open this. Except I also understand when you open it, you have to then treat it with the utmost respect to make sure that it still has that beautiful artistry about it.
I mean, this doesn't even have a dust cover, so it scares me.
Yeah, I know. So it's
so
probably...
maybe I have to find a sleeve.
Yes. So he's going to have to find something to... And it's beautiful.
Before I open it.
And Duane will probably actually make it, because he can build anything from a bridge to a building to, just rigs for my cameras and stuff like that. So websites too. Not just plugging this stuff in, darling. It's true.
Yes, okay.
It's true. That's what you do. Anyway, so going back to comics, I really had said I was going to try and keep this to an hour, because I can talk. If you know me, I can talk. So we're talking about, if you've come in late, we're talking about comics and our love of comics, and how my love of comics started in Fiji. because we used to have the best comic book stores. And Fiji Times used to run the best comic strips. And also, but right now I was talking about how when I was about 9 or 10, my experience at a family friend's place, and their comic books were amazing. So I was absolutely, to me, it was just like, yes, this is respected art, and this, to me, he was an adult. And he gets to look after it like this. So obviously, it's not just comic books.
I think the best description of that was Mr. Glass in Unbreakable. How he described comic books as if it's been around for thousands of years, and he took it all the way back to hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphs were the first form of comic books. It's a way to preserve culture, tell stories, the human imagination.
Yeah.
It's
just the cave drawings, the ground drawings.
Wow, yes, that far.
On paper. That's what this is. That's what they were. Because people love visual. Because people's imaginations are amazing. And so, or they're not amazing enough, but they want to be stimulated. So that's why artists exist. That's why not all of us can do everything, so, because we also enjoy being stimulated. Imagine if we could just do everything. Okay, so sure, we'd be self-sufficient, but isn't it nice to be able to admire somebody else's artistry, somebody else's music, somebody else's clothing design? You don't have to do everything yourself just because, for instance, just because you love fashion doesn't mean you have to go and then become a fashion designer or something like that. Let other people who are actually artists, who are fashion artists, let them do it. You show your love of fashion by supporting them. So that's the thing. That's a different conversation altogether, and it's part of workshops I do, if anyone's interested. And lectures and the things when I teach about fashion and philosophy and its history and its meaning, etc., etc. But comics are also, everything is fashion. So right now, superhero comic movies are the fashion, because everyone's feeling so weak in their own personal ways. They're going to be aggressive or go and watch people pretend to be superheroes instead of.
I mean, before you had to. It's the same as reading a comic book, because people want to escape, right? So watching a movie is the same as reading a comic book. I mean,
so people would rather escape into oblivion. People would rather alcohol and all that. And look, I'm not judging that, because we have been drinkers, and we occasionally once a month think, okay, we'll have half a beer or something, or a really good wine. And I do love champagne. And by champagne, I mean actual champagne. Oh, by the way, I've got blue on my eyes. Look, I'm not a makeup artist, but I've got blue, keeping with the... Sorry, I was kneeling on the comics. I'm going to lift myself up in some sort of crouch plank. Whoopsies! And, but I just wanted to show the blue. Don't judge me if you're into makeup. I'm into color. And I like to just sweep it because it's very fitting, because blue and red are the primary colors most associated with hero stuff. And that's for a reason. I'll get into that. But, yes, so we're talking about that. But look at our comics, and I love this t-shirt. We've both got a lot of our favorite comic book character t-shirts.
You said wear a Batman t-shirt. I was like,
which one? So I've also given Duane a lot, but Duane's had his own, and then this one we found together. Yeah. It's Batman, right? It's Batman. Well, anyway, that looks, but this is it could look like anybody could look the Daredevil really right now, but really it looks like the Phantom, who is the first superhero. Phantom is the first superhero. So anyway. Yeah. So Phantom's story starts off with
feelings there.
So if you don't want to go, but please do go and look at that. Go and watch that illustration being drawn while we talk about the movie starring Billy Zane as Phantom. And Kirsty Swanson, who was a big star at that time. She was the original Buffy, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was the original Buffy in the movies. She's super cool. Anyway, she's super cool as Diana Palmer, who is Kit Walker's, the 21st century's Phantom. She's Kit Walker's love, and she's a kick-ass woman, as I say in that review. She's the kind of white women think they are, or wish they would like to be. Anyway, she was a hero of mine, and I really thought, I'd like to be someone like that. She's super cool. And of course, the other Diana I absolutely love is Diana of Themyscira, and I'm sorry this is turned around because this says straight out of Themyscira, this t-shirt. And this is, of course, Diana is from Themyscira. Diana is Wonder Woman. So she was my Princess Diana. Diana is a princess from Themyscira, and she is a demigod. So she, back then, late 70s, early 80s, when everyone was going gaga over Princess Diana, actually Diana, Princess of Wales, her official title was Princess Charles. But she's then became known as Princess Diana because, you know, all that shit gets sullied. So this was my Princess Diana when I was 8, 9, 10. That was my Princess Diana. Anyway, because she's super cool. And I'll tell you a little bit about the history of Diana later, but that's the t-shirts we're wearing. Let's go back to finish the Phantom. So I loved all these Dianas, you know, I absolutely loved them. They were strong. Kit Walker was also a fantastic character. Now, all the Phantoms, and why the character is known as the Ghost Who Walks is because all the Phantoms, they pretend to be one Phantom. And so it's passed down from father to son, because back then, in the comic books, it's different. And I explain in that review the differences between the movie and the comic books. So the first Phantom washes up as already a man, and he gets rescued by the pygmy Bandar. So the story is a bit different, and we explain why in the review of the movie. Go to Duane's account and you'll see it there, and he illustrates. We do quite a few reviews like that. But the Phantom is a fantastic character, and he's human. He's not superhuman. He uses, I guess he's a magician. He uses illusion to, fantasy, not fantasy, but mystery, intrigue, to create legacy and what is the word we're looking for? To create, the myth, to create the myth. So they make sure no one outside of the tribe of the pygmy Bandar, and it's all quite a bit, look, it's terrible the way they've mixed. I mean, the baddies in the Phantom comics have always been the Singh Brotherhood, which is a terrible thing because the Singh, you know, they're all pirates, sure, but it makes it out that they were all Indians or pirates kind of thing. And Pygmy Bandar, none of it makes sense. When it really is off the coast of Bengal somewhere. That's where he says, but then nothing else makes sense. So in the movie starring Billy Zane and Kirsty Swanson with Catherine Zeta-Jones in it, I love her. In this, you've got to watch this movie for nothing else except Catherine Zeta-Jones, except everything else is really beautiful too. You know? Catherine Zeta-Jones in this as Sala is just mwah, mwah, love. Go watch. Anyway, not now. Come back here. So the Phantom. And fantastic, but so should we do a dedicated one to the Phantom comics?
Yeah. So we're talking about comics, we're not talking about Phantom.
No, okay, but we'll talk about Phantom later because it's
getting excited. Because it's fascinating. She has a lot of knowledge about this Phantom.
Fascinating. I know about all the things, and I know what the movie was taken from, which comics, and
we should do that soon.
Yes, we should do that. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow, depending. And if we can, maybe we can also have a special guest, etc.
Yeah.
So I also, before I get to Diana, and we'll talk about DC, but I do want to talk about Asterix and Obelix. Well, it's actually just Asterix. They never ever mention Obelix. But Asterix and Cleopatra. So as Duane pointed out, Cleopatra was brown in this, and it's something about her nose is the focus of this, but it's quite amusing, but it's very beautiful and very respectful. It does make Cleopatra out to be a spoiled brat because this is how history, of course, the Eurostream patriarchy has painted Cleopatra out to be, that she was some conniving, blah, 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 but extremely beautiful. History, the truth and fact, not just truth, fact of history actually says, well, Cleopatra wasn't actually beautiful, but she was magnificent. She was extremely brilliant. She was a queen. Now, where she's from is contentious. A recent documentary on a streaming platform depicts Cleopatra as being black. And oh my gosh, everyone's just gone nuts about that. It's like, well, why not? Egypt is North Africa. So I'll continue talking about this.
Okay.
Darling, where are you going? Right. Okay, right. Yes, sorry, we have to have, because this is live, we can't pause, so we can't do bathroom breaks. We can't just cut to an ad. Unless we do and say, look, we're going to cut to an ad for about 5 minutes so we can go do our thing. That's true. And then you can go get a cup of tea and stuff like that and go get more comfortable or whatever. Anyway, so Asterix and Cleopatra, right? Oh my gosh, I love, love, love this. And this is what made me want to go to Egypt. This and a movie, 2 movies in particular. A very, very popular Eurostream movie of a certain franchise and a Hindi cinema classic. 2 classic movies. And we do talk about that, but we'll talk about that separately because I'll explain why later. But that's those movies and this comic, this graphic novel. So you can't just call this comic. This is such a, I love it. It's not my original. I don't know what happened to my original. Unfortunately, I was away from the country when the first coups happened. I was away in boarding school and a lot of things got lost in that time being. Anyway, that's just story for another time. This is I'm talking about this, and this is so we have to talk about why and this in depth as well. We'll talk about the Phantom in depth.
We've got more Asterix coming.
We have
my mum's collection of Asterix comics.
That's right, because look, this is a legacy here because Duane's mother is also a writer, but she understands that this is art and has always nurtured that in him. And so that she's got a collection as well. So it's all fantastic. But this is why we shouldn't negate anything, any artwork of any culture, because every culture has had what is known as the modern day graphic novel, which people like to negate and say, oh, it's just a comic book. Comic books are not, for those who came in late, comic books are not for children.
Yeah.
How many times do we need to say this? I'll keep saying it until people understand that. So we'll talk about all of these separately. And then now we're going to get to, you tell me, what do you want to talk about? Because I don't know who that is. Duane knows really obscure characters and comics, whereas I'm not an obscure one. I know very popular ones, except I know their whole backstories. Like with Wonder Woman, I could have, my own show just explaining to you things about Wonder Woman. I know Wonder Woman, Diana's whole backstory. I don't call her Wonder Woman, I call her Diana. Also, I don't want to be Wonder Woman, I just want Wonder Woman to be my best friend. Wonder Woman I had a superhero for a mother, but anyway, and I have a superhero husband. And so how lucky am I? Because when you're a superhero, the obligation to go and save everybody and the ethical conundrum of do I kill, but I'm on the side of good, so I mustn't kill. Except Diana is a god and also, well, if someone's evil, what's the point of them taking up oxygen? Snap! Whereas I'm like, no, they can be. So no, superheroes don't have time for that. But also, superheroes have way too much obligation. My husband is a superhero because he never stops doing, especially for me. He's what?
No, you're literally a superhero. See, I'm a superhero for you. You go and help old women.
Oh, no. She's about comics. So, we're talking about, so now this.
The superhero.
Okay, the only Marvel character I have been into is this. Now it's different. This. Silver Surfer is the only Marvel character I love.
My favorite Marvel character is Daredevil. And my favorite Marvel character to draw is Spider-Man.
Oh, look, I lie. I love Spider-Man.
Because, I love drawing Spider-Man. He's just...
I'm going to move a little bit.
He's just lovely to draw.
Yes, he is. So let's move around a little bit, darling, so we can take advantage of I don't know, the light or something. I'm going to sit down here so that... Anyway, because I wanted Suki Rai in the background. Suki Rai is a character Duane has illustrated, and Suki Rai's there, and you'll learn more about Suki Rai at another time. Right now we're talking about the comic collection we do have together, and it's not as much, and let me just show you, if you've just come, it's not as much, and this is not all of it, of course. I don't know if you can see anything. Maybe I'm going to have to actually take this off. Excuse me, but I told you this was a live production, so we can't pause or anything, and I just fell back like an idiot. Bloopers happening live. So this is what we're talking about. Some of our comic book collections. Duane is an illustrator and a trained animator.
This is mostly yours.
Well, these are mostly my but we both have a love of comics, is what I was
so
saying.
I have
And my
to-
love of comics started in Fiji.
Yeah. Yeah.
So sorry, you were saying, my darling?
Oh no, yeah. There's more coming. So we've got a Batman collection. I have a Batman
yes, that's
collection
right.
coming with the Asterix.
Oh,
comics.
fantastic!
So these are mostly yours. I mean, look at this collection of comics you got. These you gave to me, right?
yeah, that one.
These are
that's-
my comics.
I gave that one.
So yeah,
The
this one.
Superman Wonder Woman one.
Yeah.
Yep.
This one's from Cat. This
Yes.
is a great one. You have to read.
I
This is
because like as if we have, because we don't want to break the sanctity.
You also gave me that.
Kingdom Come is one of my favorites. So this
What
these
a story.
yeah, so this is my copy, and
This
it's
is lovely.
old, and
So old.
it's old, and I've read it a few times. And this is Duane's copy that I gave him,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
and he hasn't even opened it.
But I have read.
Okay, he's read it
Yeah,
because you
it's
have to
open.
read it. It's
It's
such an incredible story. It's superheroes, and like when they're older and their kids are the superheroes and they're spoiled brats.
Yeah.
So it's such a fantastic thing. Diane, this is one of my favorite covers by, is this Alex Ross? Who's this? See, I'm not that much of a person where I know I'm not that technical. Like Duane can tell you names and of artists, etc., and I don't,
Only a few. I only know a few artists.
even of directors.
Because I didn't get into comic books until later.
Right.
So I wasn't exposed to comic books
Like the way-
until I was. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Until I went to Brisbane actually.
Right, when you were studying.
And even then I wasn't into. I still wasn't into movies
Right.
as much as I am now.
Right.
So I'm kind of a late starter comic book wise. So I didn't know comic books that well. Superheroes, DC characters
Right.
versus Marvel, all
Right.
that kind of stuff. I just bought random. That's why you say I know obscure comic. It's because I just went and bought comic books based on the art
Right.
until I started getting into movies and.
Sorry, my husband doesn't like talking to camera. He's very shy.
Oh right, yeah, because I'm talking. I'm
Yes,
telling
he's-
you the story.
We're
Yeah,
not,
sorry.
it's actually not an interactive show,
Yeah.
so please excuse us if we don't actually talk to you all the time.
Yeah,
I
sorry
tend
about that.
I tend to because I'm a television person, and so we talk to camera. But so, darling, please continue. I hijacked. So yeah, you weren't really a comics person. you said.
Yeah. So until later, so I've just been collecting random comic books. I don't do it issue by issue. So
Right.
you're a comic book freak.
Yeah,
You know, you've
yeah.
been doing it for a long time.
And I actually used to collect issue by issue.
So I know little bits and pieces of knowledge about comic books, but I'm more on the art side. I love the art of it.
Darling, actually, could you do me a favor? Because I realized we had another setup for this. We actually had our tripod set up differently so that we could move it. So it's just hanging up here. So bear with me for a moment while I continue talking about where are we going. So the DC, so I was always, so DC Comics is just all the Wonder Woman and then Batman and Superman, etc., etc. So these are what I grew up on. And that's Detective Comics. And I can't remember who was the first character of Detective Comics? Superman?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and then Bob Kane illustrated
It was
Batman.
Action Comics before.
Right,
DC
right.
became DC when Batman happened, I think, because detective.
Right, sure. So
So
okay,
around that time, I'm not
Right.
sure that that's what I mean. My knowledge of comic books isn't that good. So
whereas I grew up on all of this. So now the other characters I want to talk before I get into, so really Wonder Woman has always been my favorite because she was and I kind of really wanted her to come and say things, etc., etc. Excuse me for a moment while I just do some production stuff. I'm sorry. When you do things live, you're going to have to get used to the fact that this is just
we'll
going to happen.
and also we'll get better.
Well, we're already better at this. It's just that this is a happening as is. So look, now it's a bit more interactive. I think. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, let's
so
see what happens.
I'm going to move over here. I actually wanted to now. The other characters that we'll talk about another time because these are characters that I really fell in love with for my entire life. The other one is Modesty Blaze, and I'll talk about Modesty Blaze later. I don't actually have comics. There's no comics as such. There was actually the comic strips in the Fiji Times. Modesty Blaze is super amazing, and she is who I resonated with, and she is who I wanted to be. A lot of factors I wanted, but me as Modesty Blaze. I didn't want to be Modesty Blaze. I wanted to be me, who I am still to this day. Like, oh my gosh, I'm not an actor, so I can't ever be put in a movie. But in my life, in my mind, I think I'm Modesty Blaze. Anyway,
Yeah, I need to draw Modesty Blaze.
so my darling's actually looking through some the books I have. I've had to give away so many books that it's actually very... Sorry, I'm also doing it. Oops, that's not a very good angle. Sorry about that. I'm, sorry that I'm waving it all around, etc., etc. And we deliberately film it in landscape because I can't stand everything being in portrait mode. You can't share it properly. Whereas I'm assuming most of you are watching this on your phones, so you can hold your phones like this, and then you get to see more. But portrait, because eventually we're going to have all of this on YouTube. So, yeah. Anyway, let me talk because
carry on.
I'm really good at that. So Duane's looking for the books. So Modesty Blaze was created by Peter O'Donnell, but we'll talk about Modesty Blaze in another live, and then but Duane's looking for the books. I love Modesty Blaze. Let's go back to, and so the Fiji Times, and Fiji Times didn't censor anything because there was frequent nudity. Modesty was frequently naked, and it's like, right. But then of course Fiji wasn't as conservative. Fiji was quite open and progressive in a lot of things. One thing I told you, and I had talked about just recently when I was interviewed twice last week. Once I mentioned that, oh God, did I interviewed twice last week, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but I mentioned this once about how progressive Fiji was back then because the cinemas, Regal, where Value City is now, this incredible building that has so many memories for so many of us, was Regal. And now it's Value City, which, look, I love Value City because I really, really have found some amazing things there. Value City is the thrift shop chain in Fiji, and it's full of good stuff. I found some great vintage things in there. And so what was I saying? So, yeah, back then, and in Regal and Phoenix, which was just, the junction of Walu Bay and coming into blah, 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 Pass Market, Phoenix used to have for the men or the Lilac Theatre, in Turak, and Regal used to have for the women's sessions only, like sex movies about sex, etc. And I'm going to talk about that in the history of Suva later. Oh, in my history, my memory of Suva later, somewhere else. We're talking about comics, so let me just quickly do a recap for those of you who came in late. This is my attempt at makeup, which is, I think what makeup is supposed to be, just smearing it across the eyes. But because the theme here is superheroes and comics, blue and red is a primary color, the main colors used. Sorry. These are the things you get to see on our show. Our love, our life, unscripted, unscheduled, transparent, private though. We're not going to show you everything, but we believe in transparency and living life factually and truthfully. So I was doing this. For those of you who've come in late, we are talking about comics, our love of comics, my knowledge of comics, and the fact that I got my knowledge of comics from Fiji, which is fantastic. So that's great. Just a quick sweep. So now we have found, the Modesty Blaze books that I have. I used to have more. People borrow them and they don't return, and it makes me just not want to be friends with them anymore. So I'm not friends with them anymore. But this is not what actually Modesty Blaze looks like. This is just the actress who played Modesty Blaze in a movie, in a very bad movie. They haven't yet actually created a movie, but we'll talk about that in the live dedicated to that. So now back to us, or me for that moment, and us now. Hello. Now what are we talking about? DC. What? So tell me what you know.
Favorite characters.
Marvel, right, we were talking about Marvel. So Duane's favorite characters from Marvel have always been Spider-Man because he loves to draw Spider-Man. If we show you some of his art, a lot of his, because Duane actually has that, and when you were studying, you were all encouraged to use your own bodies and faces.
Sure, yeah.
So can you just?
Most of us will work with mirrors on the side,
right?
So for facial expressions, but basically just to know anatomy, just use your body. You have a body, obviously. So you'd see a lot of artists just standing in poses while other artists, okay, thanks, bro. Like we'd be helping each other out in class, just to get anatomy right.
Yeah.
But it was just fun things like that. So basically.
I think I want to say something about this because we're brown people. We're people of the global majority that they call people of color. We're people of culture. So in our cultures, because we live in a Eurostream dominant society, look, it's great. It's problematic. We'll get to that another time. Every other time I talk. So as a brown person, it's actually quite interesting to hear that you studied all of this. You studied animation, illustration, got to study the art of comic books, etc. You studied graphic design. You're a graphic artist. But you actually wanted to originally study fine arts.
Yeah, visual arts.
Visual arts, fine arts, and get into what we all really know is privilege arts. And really that's where the Eurostream people, they're the ones who, that's why they're the most prevalent in all of those, in classical music, etc., and artworks. All the great artists that we know of the world are all Eurostream, mainly males, because they've washed out the women. They've completely washed out their own women. And so, of course, what the people of the global majority don't get celebrated like that in the Eurostream construct, which I love. Look, I'm such a fan of so many Eurostream artists of all genres. Love them, not complaining, but I am so sad that so much of our artistry got lost in the ages. Anyway, that's another time. But what I feel is that it's really important to know for people, young people watching, that are, who are discouraged from following your artistic and creative dreams, that actually there are a lot of people who can show you that that's not always true, and that whatever privilege you have, so parents who have privilege should allow their children to follow their dreams instead of following the parents' dreams. So that's what I'm saying. So your parents took their privilege, but also understood the realities of being a person of culture in a Eurostream construct, and that we don't get to succeed in the privileges. And so this is why I really, really love for young people now who are actually just going straight, people of color who are going straight into creative pursuits, but who still have to work to fund that. There's a lot of that happening still. And we're very lucky as brown people. We got to go straight. We've always worked in our talent industries. Wherever our talents have lied, we've always been able to work. And I think that's such a privilege. So I've always used that privilege to shine a light on this very issue. And I'm listening to you talk about that. It's like, wow, you were actually allowed. First of all, you were allowed to take a year off to decide what it is you wanted to do. Duane grew up his high school years and teen years, the most important high school years in Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea, in an international school environment and an international community, still surrounded by island and island people and Melanesian culture, especially a culture and a people and a country of provinces that is so terribly misunderstood by the world. Papua New Guinea is an incredible country. We've got some very special things happening this month. We'd love you to actually tune in for that. And also, not tune in, but actually just watch our spaces, all our spaces. Stay tuned, thank you. Watch all our platforms and all our spaces, because we've got an incredible month of constant, amazing things happening, and we're showing that, and things for you to get to know. So we are talking about all of this. So first of all, I'm talking about how privileged it is for us, and I always am so grateful that we have been able to work in our industries, even though, like, I would have loved to be internationally, I would have loved, because I moved to Australia in my late 20s, I would have loved to be then on television back then, straight from being on television and radio in Fiji and in Asia. But I was told back then that late 90s and 2000s that my face was not right for the Australian market. Funny though, I did a lot of overseas productions. That's another story. So but now you are seeing people of color, and now that all these platforms exist, it's really great to see people of color. So I really love, my darling, that you stayed true to your dream. You were given the privilege. You wanted to do visual arts, fine arts, and that was sort of discouraged by your caring parents who said, son, do something you love, what your skill is, but something that will keep you employed.
Get you a job.
Because fine artists, you don't get to earn money from that. You suffer for it.
Yeah, until you die.
Yeah, and then you become famous for it after you're dead, and then, but everybody else then benefits off your talent. But it's so it was very wise advice, I feel, because Duane was then allowed to hone a talent, and create a skill. So take a natural talent and make a skill out of it. And that was what was a very, very good. And you've pursued that. And I really, really appreciate that, because I want to get to why I'm talking about this. And so you didn't just study that and waste your time, waste your parents' time, or waste something that you knew about yourself. And you pursued it to the point where you chose to go freelance, one of the hardest things to do in Fiji. I mean, the world, but Fiji, freelance. Holy cow. And you still stayed true to your calling kind of thing. And that's really great. And this is where I think I would like to talk about Clarence.
Right.
You know, Clarence, it's hard, but Clarence has stayed true to this. And I'm going to turn it around so we don't see it in... so I'm just going to excuse me for a moment. There. That. And that is art. Now, why this is very special, look, we'll be talking about this later. So, because when we were living in Suva, we, Clarence and Courtney came over for dinner, and we got this very special gift. And we talked so much all night. I didn't get this signed. I forgot to. We were said, come on, you can't leave without signing. So we will be able to get this signed soon enough. I know. I'm pretty sure. Because also we've got some other things happening. But this, yes, it's a work of art. Should we open it? Should we bring it out of its sleeve and just and show? Because we will go into depth about this. But this is a very special cover, because this is not the cover that people have now. You know, so this, unfortunately, we had to actually, Duane had to amend a sleeve for this. But this is, look at it, Path of the Shades, and it's adapted and illustrated. So he didn't change the story, he just showed the story. And now we're all very particular about how we turn pages. And so it shows, so the first two are about the actual story. And you'll see why he's chosen to do it this way, but we'll let him tell you that story himself. And the story continues, and it's just, look, it's absolutely beautiful, in his words, how he feels. Now, Clarence is an artist and therefore a historian. Because these are stories that need to be told, and they're getting lost under the conservatism and colonization that Fiji is unfortunately suffering under. All these incredible stories. I had to cut all ties, that's cut friend, Fiji slang, cut ties with a beautiful Kaiviti person because of the way they were talking about their ancestors and their ancestors' stories. Because this Kaiviti person is a Christian person and very intelligent and talented and skilled and gorgeous. But as soon as they started insulting their ancestors and the ancestors' knowledge base and their connectivity to nature, I had to stop. I could no longer be this, of the beloved country of birth that I am not, and we are not allowed to call myself that person. You do not call yourself Fijian, even though you are indigenous Fijian. You may turn the page.
And I don't want to, because people can go and buy the thing and read it themselves. Don't want to show.
Oh, right, of course. Don't show it. You go and buy it. I think it's available.
Beautiful colors. It's beautiful art. The story is amazing. The
story is amazing by Clarence Das. Very, very in keeping with the history of Fiji.
Love the tones.
I'm just going to go in a little bit to show you the tones. So divine. You just were absolutely, you didn't speak. I continued speaking. You were just looking through this, how beautiful. But I've got a very special edition, because this is not the cover that is being sold. Clarence will explain why, he made that decision, etc., etc. So we got this very special cover. It is art to us. Mm-hmm. It is history. Nobody else is allowed to touch it. Sorry. So that's that. So what else can we talk about? We're talking about Wonder Woman. Now we'll talk about Wonder Woman separately. We already actually have. There is an episode up on Radio Fly, which is our original podcast, about Wonder Woman, who created her, why. A man created the character of Wonder Woman, but he based it on his wife, who he considered Wonder Woman. And
just want to show you how old.
Oh yeah, please do.
This is.
Yeah,
it's falling apart. That's why the sleeves.
No. Sorry, where's the focus? No. Yeah, you can tell from the ears. Anyway,
So,
we'll talk more about the character and the creation of the character and who it was based on and why it was based on that. What are you showing, darling?
same.
Oh, no, I don't want to look at it. I've had these for a long time. Okay.
Look at that color though.
Beautiful. So we'll talk about Wonder Woman, but we do have a podcast, but we'll actually do, something here. So I love Wonder Woman. I absolutely love Woman. If you love Wonder Woman, and of course, look at that. That's one of my, look at that. That's Wonder Woman with our other favorite character, Batman.
And that other guy.
That guy. Yeah, that guy. Look, I'm not a fan of that guy, but I used to love that guy's symbology because it's an S. But that S doesn't stand for Superman. That S stands for the L, for Jor-El's line, for the L line. So Kal-El's father, Jor-El, and the L line of children of Krypton, the House of L. And also, I don't like Superman's mythology because Superman's just a bloody alien. He came to, his father found the weakest planet in the whole entire universe of whatever and said, son, I will send you to the weakest planet, so there you will be the strongest. Their sun that keeps them hot and cold and weak and fighting will keep you strong. You can choose to dump whatever. So of course they had to make him a pauper, but we'll talk about Superman. Or do we talk about Superman now? So I'm actually going to turn this around because we are going through Wonder Woman. So while I, wax shady about Kal-El. Okay, do I have any Superman comics? Okay, look, I do.
Well, it's not a Superman comic.
It's a comic. Oops.
This is a Superman comic because,
So they like to pair Superman with Wonder Woman, and the reason why that pairing happens, like here.
That's a Superman comic.
Right.
Featuring Wonder Woman.
Yes. They like to pair them together because Wonder Woman is actually an Olympian goddess, according to the mythology and theology of that stuff. And she's an Amazonian, and they have special powers, and she's also immortal. We don't really know how old she is. She could be 800 years old, she could be 4,000. But they're very, very old, and she is the only one who was made. The other Amazons, I'll tell you about all of this later. So anyway, and the reason why Superman it's like, bleh. And of course they had to make him poor and in Hicksville, Smallville, USA, because he's got all these powers that make him superior to human beings. Which is the reason why our other favorite character, because both of us, we are Diana of Themyscira and Batman fans. And Phantom. And there's a lot of other female, women, superheroes and villains I love. So, yes, but the best one, so Batman's human. Batman is human, that's why you love him. You love all the superheroes who are human. And I love Diana because she's a goddess, and she was created. And we'll talk about that when we do the dedicated live to Diana. So we love Batman because he's he's a normal human who is superhuman because of his money. His wealth makes him rich.
But you have a theory about Batman.
Yeah, I do, but we'll talk about that later.
All right, so that's okay.
We'll dedicate that live to Batman. But Batman had to be, this is something we've talked about, and I'm not sure which one came to this realization first. Both of us did at the same time, or you did, that Batman Bruce Wayne had to be rich. He had to be a billionaire. Because you can't do all of the things, you can't save the world unless you're rich. And that's why these people who are billionaires are such a disappointment and such leeches on the world. They could use all that money they have accumulated from us, the people who've made them billionaires, because we had to buy what they sold us to make them billionaires. Now, in the Batman mythology and history and canon, it's Thomas Wayne, his father, Bruce Wayne's father, was a good man, depending on which story you hear. But we'll talk about that in depth. And all of that money that they became billionaires from came from helping the people. So it had to be, you have to, because you don't become billionaires by helping people. You don't. You become billionaires by exploiting what people need. Or making them think they want something. And So now in the information and this time we rely on these people who are billionaires now. So in the comic book world, they made a really good man a billionaire who was tortured and traumatized. So he took all of that and then said, no, I will use my privilege for good. I will fight back. I will use everything that happened to me, and I'll use my privilege for good. And that's what's so amazing about Bruce Wayne. But we'll talk about that in that dedicated live. And that's why we love Batman. And Batman's just mega intelligent. He's a scientist. So Diana and Bruce are the intelligent ones. Kal-El is like, huh? I don't understand. Of course not, you big idiot.
Well, technically, Kal-El has all the knowledge from Krypton in his cells.
Yes, his DNA, his blah blah blah. Should we can talk about him every now and then, I guess. I don't want to dedicate. Well, we should dedicate an entire one.
I mean, the whole comics of Superman are ridiculous. Some of his powers, it's just like, what? Bro, calm down.
If this was that kind of show, I would do a gesture with my hand right now that would sort of refer to self-care practices, men's stuff. But anyway, so this is why we love comics, and we will now do dedicated live episodes to this every Saturday morning.
Sure.
Tomorrow, though, we're going to continue with this. So we'll continue this Saturday and Sunday. And over brunch as well as we talk. And what else do we need to talk about? These incredible comics. I mean, we have so many books. I think those books are actually in our office, so I may show people all the the books we've got about all the expanded universes. Sure, bring them out. So each one, like I'm also a sci-fi freak and sci-fi entertainment via movies, so I have a lot of extended universe Star Wars stuff. I know. This is all artistry to me. To say that all of this is just for children or grow up is like, oh God, when did you not grow? When did you not understand that all of this is just the evolution of how we were? We went from cave paintings and how stories were told to artistry like this, and now we see it on screens, and now, it's just amazing. It's amazing. So we do have to, excuse me, we are going to now change the angle. So where are these books? There we go. So these are the, other books we have. And I've had this for so long. Wonder Woman, Ultimate Guide to the Amazon Princess. Some of these are not quite right. This is interesting. And also, I really can't stand it when the illustrators sexualize Diana, because Diana's not sexual. She's just sensual and she's innocent. She's actually the goddess of love. So this is what people also didn't understand about the characterization in the movie starring Gal Gadot, directed by Patty Jenkins. Diana has always been about love because that's why she was born. Her mother, Hippolyta, made sure of that. So Diana gets angry when love gets abused. She doesn't understand. But always, males like to always male gaze this shit. So, look, Diana's going to look like that. She comes from an island of woman. They have no shame. This is armor, and she's an Amazon. She doesn't get cut. So why should she have to cover her body? Armor gets in the way. All that armor that everybody is supposed to wear in whatever times, that's heavy shit. You're a goddess. What do you need? So this is Hippolyta, her mother. And so we will go into depth, and this is how the story of the Amazons, how they came to being, and all that. So keep turning, darling. We won't go into depth right now. And this tells the story about the Amazons. So I know quite a bit about who the actual Amazons are. So, they were all multicultural. They were based on everything. And so this is, and the Lost Tribe, but so there was also, and what this doesn't tell you is about Nubia. Now, there is a storyline, which I will talk about in depth. There is a storyline in the Diana of Themyscira and the Amazonian canon about there being another child, that when Diana was created by Hippolyta, Diana was created as a twin. And the twin was called Nubia and was black. Cool. And that's another story for another time. So yeah, but we'll continue. This is Wonder Woman Styles. This is a great magazine. Not a magazine, a great book about the extended universe of Diana. But then there's these books that, they have been opened, but whether or not they've been cracked open to look, The Anatomy of a Metahuman. So this, is a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah.
Very disappointed. So it's written by all that. So we're disappointed in you people. We were so looking forward to reading this, and when you did finally open, because I gave this as a gift to you, one of my first Christmas presents to you, Anatomy of a Human. So this, of a metahuman. Now we'll explain what this is. Now this, keep going, darling, is actually Bruce Wayne's diary. And this is him, right? This is Bruce?
Yeah.
And this is Bruce's body, battered and whatever. But again, I don't want to go into depth, so I keep, so this is Bruce's diary of all, to the list, Bruce's diary of all of these metahumans, to see what makes them tick. Because Bruce Wayne is a scientist. There we go. There is another Bruce that we go a bit stupid over when we watch it. And I have to talk about this for a moment. We also have a playlist on YouTube and on our Stylander and Videofly Instagram accounts. But you'll go and find the link. You can find the link on my link tree or my bio. On YouTube, on our Stylander TV, we have a playlist which is dedicated to Warrior, which is the most incredible TV series that people do not know about. In Australia, you can find it on Binge. It's currently on HBO around the world. It used to be with Cinemax. And we talk about this in depth in our reviews because Duane illustrates each episode. And then in season 2, it's mostly about characters. And we talk about the episodes because it's incredible. Now, Warrior is based on a treatment, which is what writers and screenwriters call the bare bones of their idea and their show and what they want their characters to be. So that's called a treatment. So that's there. And it's by, you want to say the name?
Mr. Bruce Lee. Mr. Lee.
And every time we watch the show and the credits, because we don't skip over the credits, it's taken from the writings of
Bruce Lee.
We're just like, ooh. If you've watched Lion King, it's how when they talk, the hyenas or whatever, all the others talk about Mufasa.
When they say his name, that feeling.
Well, that's Bruce Lee, okay? And this is cool because my husband's quarter Chinese, and he's Li Wai. So it's really cool. And also he's Bruce Duane. And he's very much like the Phantom to me. Right. Anyway, but this is really cool. So we needed to talk about that. Go and find that because it's really fantastic. Warrior. Even if you don't want to listen to us and watch our videos, go and find Warrior. So cool. It's about Chinese history, migration, and life in San Francisco in the 1800s. The colonization of San Francisco, of California, of that part, and how it was all very British then. British and Irish, and what happened to the Chinese. This is about the Chinese history, and you do find a little bit about the Black American history and the First Nations people of that country that is America, United States of America. It's such an incredible show, such wonderful fictionalized history, but there's all history. It's all real. It's all true. It's all true. If you listen to our reviews, you'll know that everything is based on history. So go find that. It's called Warrior, based on writings of Bruce Lee, and it's amazing. So those are the Bruces we like, and those we found. And what are my best female characters? Oh my gosh, because I love Elektra. Actually, I really love Elektra, who is Marvel. And also, we hadn't finished the Marvel conversations because we were talking a lot about DC. And so we do want to finish that, but I do want to show you also these. Oops, sorry, I'm putting these books there on top of our treasured books. Duane sometimes just looks at me like, what are you doing? So, Star Wars stuff. So this is given to me. This was a gift. And really what this is back when it was the trend to do coloring in. See, this is a very interesting thing about this trend that happened. Art therapy and coloring in. Because I have always used coloring in. I mean, I recognized that as a child because it was actually something my father was Mensa qualified. And so he had to keep turning, darling, keep turning. This is just an art book for you to color in, and it's all Star Wars based, and it's all fantastic. And all of this, Duane is salivating because he loves detail. When Duane draws, this is not detailed. See this detail? Detail? This is not detailed enough for Duane. Darling, it's true. But anyway, this is just a coloring in thing. So that's great. So let's move on. Because we're not really talking about Star Wars, but you should know that I'm a Star Wars freak, and you should know this about me. The bloody stormtroopers, they're going to miss everything again. You should know this about me. I was in a Star Wars movie, and I got to meet George Lucas, and I got to be part of the Star Wars canon. I'm not an actor, so it wasn't like a major part. I was a glorified extra, but we were chosen for the way we looked. And so that was really cool. And that was filmed in Sydney. So
Very cool.
yeah, I'll talk about that another time. So hang on. So let's go back to Star Wars. So I have books and books and books like of all this. And I have where's the Jedi book? I have all these other, but we'll talk about Star Wars. We'll talk about Star Wars another time. So this is just, again, a book about, my darling, we'll turn it over. Thank you. Just these things, just because I like having them. It's not that I don't know this information, but I don't ever really get into the technical side of things. My brother was really good at knowing all the names of all the planes, etc., etc. And we're also really a little bit into the extended universe of Star Wars because we love The Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. While you're on our YouTube channel, The Salander TV, you will also see our review of The Mandalorian and the illustration accompanying it. It's absolutely amazing. So thanks, my darling. And then let's move on to the next book, because we'll talk about Star Wars later. I love, love, love Star Wars. Star Wars came out in 1977. I was in love, absolutely in love. And I have been in love since then. Slightly disappointed too, but oh well. I don't really know what that says.
Clara? Yeah.
I don't know. Why has someone written in my book? Oh no, this was a gift. Whoopsies. Yes, I know who this is from. And it was lovely. So, see, I don't actually need all this. So these are all gifts to me.
Yeah.
And I love them because I then can, access information that I don't know. Like these people, I love them. So this is the famous band in the cantina where you first meet Han Solo. So that. But so there was so much that I got to be got to see in Star Wars, and I really loved being in Star Wars. But I'll talk about that another time when I'm talking about my life.
Figrin D.
Yeah.
Figrin Dian. And the modal nodes.
That's them. So that was cool. So that was in Star Wars, the first one that eventually got called A New Hope. So okay, we'll move on. And what was I talking about? From had we finished the privilege thing now? We're talking about Star Wars. We were talking about our books. We'll talk about all of this and something else. Gosh, see, this is the problem. I have to keep taking notes because I've absolutely forgotten. Right. So coloring in. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about coloring in because Duane showed you the book I have, but we have a lot more books. I mean, seriously, we really have a lot more books and things we'd love to take, show you because they're beautiful things. A lot of these books, like that one, that's where usually Clarence Darcy's graphic novel sits, but that one is also by people I know. Corey Tutt, who is a First Nations scientist, and he created this book along with Black Douglas, who the book that we showed you at the start. And then I've just got a lot of, and that one is a book by a friend, Priyanka Bromhead, a book of poetry, and so these are, and behind there some there are other books that are created by friends. So I have all these amazing things and artwork all over the place and done by my friends and my husband. I really must take you through that. So it's really lovely to have all this stuff. Anyway, so we were talking about comics, if you're late to the picture. So I was talking about coloring in, when you saw those coloring in books, right? So I don't get those for myself. But I've always known about coloring in, darling, because it was, as I said, my father was Mensa qualified and was really, proud of that kind of thing. Because of course. And so I had tests and stuff done, and so of course he was proud of that too. It was something to just whatever. And so some of these books had showed how to create focus. So I've always used coloring in as focus. So it depends on the color. If you need to calm your mind, you then use blue, because blue is a color that connects with those waves And I will talk about this in perhaps another episode with in depth, because some things I'm not remembering correctly or can't fetch from my memory bank. Blue doesn't get absorbed by those waves, and so that's why you see blue. And what then that does is it soothes the waves and the neural pathways in your brain that are making you feel anxious, or so, and you can't focus, because blue is a calming color. Blue is the color that our optic fibers recognize as being a color that when it hits the waves, when the waves of blue hit our brains, our optic fibers, it's something that soothes us. So I've always understood that. And you've got to color in the lines to create the focus. And if you color in outside of the lines, you have to do it without emotion. You have got to understand what you're doing, because once you start coloring outside of the lines, that is emotion. And then you have got to then go with that emotion, and you've got to understand what that emotion is doing. So color therapy has always been a big thing for me. I've used reds and pinks. Whoops, I just fell off what I was sitting on. Sorry, sweetheart. But I obviously felt like giving my husband a kiss. So coloring was always that for me. Color was a therapy, and I've used that my entire life. For a while in my late 30s, I was a color consultant in that way, and that I would help people buy clothing, or I'd go through their wardrobes and say, well, you've got that much, too much of that color and too much of this, and it's not affecting you. And this has got nothing to do with that color matching for skin tone. It's got nothing to do with that. My color matching is about chromotherapy and how the photons and the waves of color and the different waves, etc. My husband is smiling because he gets really happy, and he loves all this stuff.
Cool. Sorry, yeah. Just that's so cool.
And how it affects you. This is what I say, we're constantly making love, because if we're not talking here, we're talking off here, and this is what we call love making, as well as everything else. But no, some things are very private. Thank you very much. And dun dun dun, we're talking comics right now. Where did I go with that? Because I want to kiss my husband. Anyway, so that's what color therapy is for. So you should just, you shouldn't do anything. You could try it if it sounds appealing to you. Just, take just one color at a time, or if you're an artist, you can draw, of course. But if you're not an artist, you can still use color. And so that's what I used to do for people. I just say, look, just wear this color and see how you feel, because color is used to show mood. And that's what I've always used color and clothing for, to show mood. And that is why I actually chose red and blue on my eyelids. Now red, it's very funny that blue is considered the color for males and pink is considered the color for females, because just very quickly, I will talk about more on the color chromotherapy. And I write a lot about this, and everywhere on my feed I talk about this, because pink is a derivative of red. And red is actually a very aggressive, dominating color, and therefore was actually considered a masculine color, because it was connected to blood and males, and they were bloody warfare. And blue is the calming color. Blue is the communication color. Blue is the color of clarity, and that was considered female. But it all changed later, and that all became because of capitalism and needing to sell things. And so I won't get into that right now. But blue and red were used by comic book people to show primary power. Primary power. So what are the primary colors? God, this is
red, green, and blue.
Primary school. I don't remember. Red, green, and blue. No, what? So green and blue gets.
No, sorry. That's.
Yeah, green and.
That's green.
A yellow. It's red.
Colors.
That's green colors. Wow. No, I'm going back to I love watching you mix colors. When you mix your watercolors, though, it's so sexy. I probably won't be able to do that live, because I'll be like, excuse me, I have to leave now. When Duane's mixing all his tubes of watercolors and stuff, and just mixing it, creating gradients and shades and different colors. Like, I know so many color names because I'm a writer. I say to Duane, what's that color? And Duane just says green. I'm like, no, it's a different shade. It's something else. It's lovely. We'll do that. But anyway, that's what color is used for, and I've always loved it for that. And so the comic books use the primary colors of red, blue, and yellow, like this and this, and this. And I think only the creator of Wonder Woman really understood why it was to be like that. Because the Superman has those colors too, though, red, blue, and yellow. Those are the primary colors to show primary power. And I'll explain why when we talk about that, because I can't remember why. Why? Because they're the basic colors that are seen. So when you're colorblind, it's because you can't see those colors. Like you can't see red, right? And you can't see colors underwater because of the way they, the waves and et cetera, how they all connect. It's all quite fascinating. So it's what color that doesn't get absorbed by everything around it. So you see green because flora, because they need chlorophyll and the sun and all that. So they need the green. They need green. So we see everything as green because that's the color that doesn't get absorbed by flora around us. So that's why everything's green. So when you see a color of something, that color is actually not absorbed by the plant and needs it for something else. It needs it for its external self. So that's skin color as well. Skin color happened according to what kind of protection the body created for itself. Melanin is an incredible, incredible thing the brain evolved for us to protect us. It's incredible. Anyway, that's what color is all about. This is a world of color. So I love color. And primary color is the magic colors. And from all those colors comes the spectrum of colors. From those three colors comes a spectrum of colors, which creates a spectrum of white. So all the colors create white. And then you have absence of color, which is black.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because in that supposed absence of color is life, is everything. There's light. Light is what, the light is what creates, but it always exists. Anyway, that's something else. That's an existential.
So would you be a colonizer? Here we come.
That is such a word. Wow. Wow, darling. Wow. Colonizer. That's what we are. We're colonizers. I don't know if this word has existed. People, this is what people want fame for so that they can steal other people's ideas and run with it. But this is where you heard it first, apparently. Because, wow, colonizer. That was my back that just cracked.
Wow. That always makes me feel good.
Yeah, it makes me feel good too, darling. And, yeah, wow, colonizers, that's great. Anyway, so this was just a little, as I said earlier, that nothing we say actually is just ever too light. So I'm sorry about that. But I really want to show you that one there.
This?
So yeah, don't turn around. I might actually turn around the camera to show you this, which Duane doesn't actually like. But that is a first draft of something. Sorry, all our equipment's in the way. We've got shoots, so we've got all our equipment here. These are all I have had this equipment for so long. Anyway, so that is something that Duane digitally created, Dina and Satya, but you're not a fan of it really anymore because you feel you could, but I love it. I love it. It was based on a concept we did about what the names mean and everything. So we have this on tote bags and there's a print. It's so cool. You know who that is to me? Sarah Volavol and Sharon Money, before we even met them.
Shit.
Oh my God. Wow. Because that's their attitude.
Yeah.
That is their attitude. How cool is that? So this, for those of you who haven't seen, because I do tend to take people around our space, darling, these are just our collection of vintage art. That one up there is something I got gifted from someone in Fiji in 1992. These are from the 90s. That's something I bought at the top up there. I'll take that later. We'll do an art thing. We'll talk about art because I want to talk about your art. But this one has been about our love of comics and our favorite characters and how much I love Diana of Themyscira. So, and we both love Diana of Themyscira. Yeah. Usually males are discouraged from loving Diana, even though Diana is actually stronger than that alien colonizer. Just came to this because he could be strongest. Anyway, so yeah, Diana is the strongest superhero, but for some reason they don't like little boys to wear Diana stuff. So if you go into department stores, etc., and you go into the children's departments, unless it's a Justice League one, the boys don't have Diana on their stuff, on their t-shirts. But if you go into the girls department, the girls have Wonder Woman for sure, and they make her really, I don't know. She's playful, sure, but maybe girls need to have Wonder Girl, and then also Wonder Woman. That this is what you grow into. But girls don't have to be women. You're girls. Diana. The good thing about Diana, even though she's an Amazon, she was also a girl. So show Diana as a little girl. She was still strong. She was still beautifully, wonderfully compassionate and caring and intelligent and curious, etc. Anyway, they depict her really well in Patty Jenkins' movie. So that's what I was saying. So our favorite characters. Mm-hmm. I love Diana. Mm-hmm. Diana's the strongest, but that's right. I'd lost my thread for a little while. Sorry. But so the girls get Superman and sometimes Batman, but they get Batwoman. They get bat, sort of pink bat stuff. You get pink bat t-shirts and all that. And but the boys don't get to wear Diana, and I think that's so wrong, because everyone knows Diana Themyscira is stronger than everyone. Sorry.
She's a god.
She's a god.
She's a god killer.
And she's a god killer. But that's a good thing, actually, because she recognizes in that mythology of Greek mythology of theology, their stories are of their gods. Some of them are not good.
Well, a god killer is only a god can kill a god.
Only a god can kill a god. So so Greek theology, mythology, and all that stuff. The gods are always killing each other. Yeah. So she doesn't.
She's not a god killer. She's just a god. So she can kill a god.
Yes. So maybe that name is not then relevant.
Yeah.
She's not a god killer, but that's what they had to say it in the movie because they didn't want Diana to know that actually she's a god and she can kill gods. So that's what. Anyway, blah 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 blah. We have talked about all of that on our Radio Fly series, etc. And we're going to continue and talk about why. So we'll finish this now, and we are going to be talking in depth with Clarence Stars. And we're also going to be talking about in depth about Asterix and Cleopatra and why I love that graphic novel. But I'm just going to turn this around. Excuse me while I make you look up my nostrils once again. So we'll be talking about that. We have already done in-depth conversations of the Phantom. You'll find that on our YouTube channel and on our Instagram accounts. Please look on Duane's account for the Phantom, our review of the movie, but we will be doing a longer live about Phantom. If you want to know about Phantom Goes to Walks, because I do know a lot about Phantom, and that's because I was educated about Phantom in Fiji from the Fiji Times and the wonderful bookstore in Toorak. Now, the next one is Modesty Blaise. I really do need to talk about her because if there's anyone I'd like to be, it's Modesty Blaise. So I want to go in depth about it. These are the books. This is not what she looks like, but this is the characters or the actress playing the character in a poorly done movie, and I'll explain more about that later. So this is, and I'll explain why I would love to be Modesty Blaise and why I have always thought of myself as, if there's anyone I think about who I am, and if I want to, have some power in me, I don't ever think I'm Wonder Woman. I never ever think I'm Wonder Woman, but Modesty Blaise is a human Wonder Woman.
Sure.
And I want to be Wonder Woman's best friend. I want her to be my best friend, kind of thing. Or I would like the spirit of what makes Diana Diana in as my best friend.
I mean, Modesty would be Diana's best friend.
Absolutely, these two. So I totally want, I'd love to be, in celebrities, people love to hate Beyonce and Angelina Jolie. I totally want them as my best friends. Mm-hmm. They're so kick-ass. Hell yes, women like that. That's the kind of people you want to be friends with.
Yeah.
Not those lame-ass idiots who just become celebrities and get Botox and crap and shit. I'm not saying that Beyonce and Angelina don't, but at least they do more with their lives. Anyway, so that's what we're talking about. Who are we talking about next? Oh, yes. This is also what I'm going to be talking about in depth because this comic made me want to go to Egypt. And two other things, absolutely. And we've talked about that in depth. I'm not sure if it's actually up anywhere, but I have talked about it in the feature we have on the Stylender magazine, Top 5 Places, because I'm not sure if I said Egypt was one of my top 5 places. I don't think so, but I've always wanted to go to Egypt, and I've had some terrific moments there. And two movies, actually, really also did that for me. One is a classic Hindi cinema movie of the 70s. Both are 70s movies, because I'm a 70s girl. We've talked about that also, the era thing, what defines an era. Yeah. But I was born in the 70s, and I've absorbed a lot of it. so this wonderful, is and another Eurostream classic movie. Okay, that's I think all. And of course, we're going to go into in depth with Star Wars, and I'll tell you then about my time being on a Star Wars set and talking with George Lucas and actually being part of the Star Wars canon because I was in a movie.
So cool.
No speaking, but because I was just a glorified extra and I'm not an actor, but as I said, I was chosen specifically for this scene because of the way I looked. And I thought I was going to be then put into masks and everything. No, they wanted my shoulders and my face and my body. And I was dressed in this incredible gown, which was like a vacuum tube. And I'm like, damn. All right. I got to tell more about that later. What next are we talking about? Okay, that's it for us, really. Yeah. On that note, thank you very much for joining us if you are here, or thank you for watching if you're watching later, because that tends to be the case, and that's okay. Because I never ever give fair enough warning. I just sort of pop a live on you whenever, and just say, look, in half an hour we're going to be talking about this. Do you want to join? If not, bye. And then, as we have said, as I have explained, our lives, this show that we have is called The Lives of Our Days. And these are unscripted and unscheduled, but usually in the morning, sometimes midday, if we're going for a walk or something, which you're supposed to be going for a walk, darling. Oh, yeah. I have to go collect more flowers because my flowers have all, sorry, I just got a message. That's why I'm always doing this, because of these messages and stuff. Flowers are just abundant. It's spring. It's the second day of spring, and spring is showing itself a little bit. I was a bit disappointed it didn't show itself. Yesterday, it's like, on demand, please. On demand. But perhaps it'll show spring will definitely bloom at equinox time, which is soon, mid-September. I hope September is an excellent month for you. You'll be seeing us every day if you care to join us. It's all there on our feed, so join us. Oh, I must show you. My Wonder Woman earrings. Aren't these super, super cool? We both have a huge collection of our favorite characters, and I have like Wonder Woman everything. Wonder Woman hat, Wonder Woman cap, Wonder Woman earrings, necklace. Oh, I have something on my wrist. I can't remember where it is now. What's there? Anyway, that's all. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Because I also want to talk about, we're going to be doing a very special edition about my favorite artist and my favorite topic of conversation. And now Duane's about to go. Duane tunes out. So my favorite topic of...
You can do that one on your own.
Okay, maybe. My favorite topic of conversation is my husband. He's my favorite artist. And he's just like, oh my gosh, no, please. No. So I'll talk about him alone and show you his art and what he does, because he just, look at him. He's just not impressed right now. It's like, boring. Anyway, but I love it. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you. We're coming back later on in the day, maybe. This is the beauty of it. And we're definitely coming back tomorrow morning. Mm-hmm. We don't really know as yet what with. We'll be continuing the comic conversation. We might go in depth, and we'll have brunch, and you and I, we can all just sit and talanoa, as we say in Fiji. Duane will make a wonderful brunch maybe for me, because I like these things. And we'll talk more about some of our favorite topics, and hopefully we have a conversation there happening for you too. So thank you very much for being with us today. Enjoy your Saturday, wherever you are. Oh, also, quick plug, Fiji Runway. Fiji Runway is happening in California. It's September 1st at the moment for them, Friday evening, but it's happening September 2nd. And if you're going, lucky you, stay tuned to their Instagram accounts and their Facebook, and also Stalander. We carry some stories of them, but go to their accounts. It's all happening right now. And follow David Solomoni, because he is also he's a top blogger and social media manager from Fiji, and he is doing their social media accounts. So you'll get great content. Are you leaving, my darling? All right, so I'll say bye.
Okay.
We'll be back later. Thank you very much for being with us. I've said that like 4 times now. Bye. That, if you're wondering, that guitar is from Golden Dragon Music in Fiji. Fiji's and the Pacific's, really Australia's bet, because people come from all over the place to go and buy instruments and certain things from Dragon Music in Suva, which is an institution. That's another thing. Also, if you're on Facebook, please do go find Dragon Music's Golden Dragons Silver Jubilee, which I took photographs, and we'll talk about that. And if you go into Stylender, there's all these photographs there. Stylender is our magazine. All those links are in my bio. Please do go have a look at it. We've got incredible stuff happening this month, and we'll be dropping them every day, every week. Amazing month. September is an amazing month for everybody. I hope you understand that and step into it. Don't let anybody else believe that it's not going to be an amazing month for you. Step into it. Don't wait for it to happen to you. Meet your miracles halfway. Having said that, I'm out of here. I've got to go because I'm also hungry and I don't want to eat in front of you. Bye.